in IPL. I learned a lot when I was playing for Sunrisers that you're able to have a lot more time than you think. And I think playing on these surfaces specifically, if you give yourself time at the back end, you could actually score big. Um, and that's where I felt today we missed a little bit with the bat. We set our platform up very, very well, and we didn't execute as well as we like as a batting unit to post what I thought 400 was probably on the cards from where we were.
Dave, similar to bro.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cricket Unfiltered. That was, of course, Aussie top order star David Warner after his huge 100 against Pakistan on Friday night. I'm Menas, and I'm joined today. My co-host, he's come back. I didn't scare him off the first time. James Bazley from Queensland Cricket. James, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Menas. Yeah, you definitely didn't scare me off, mate. I'm excited to go again.
Excellent. We actually got to meet in person at the middle of Cricket Central just before the Sheffield Shield season. You've got a few inches on me on height, that's for sure. If we do a logo, I might have to stand out on like a milk box or a milk carton or something.
Yeah, we can sort that out for you, mate. I definitely got you covered.
All right. Well, we've got a lot to get to today. We've been doing regular World Cup reports, but the domestic scene has really kicked off. The World Cup, there's been lots of great action. So let's get straight into all the cricket headlines. First things first, cricket at the Olympics. So it looks like LA is going to have a 6-team competition, and then possibly Queensland could have cricket at the Olympics, and maybe even more than 6 teams. James, as a cricketer, does that excite you, winning a gold medal?
Yeah, definitely. It has to excite you, doesn't it? I mean, it's just got to. Every 4 years, Olympics comes around, you think, yeah, wow, I'd love to win one of these gold medals. I think off the back of the US T20 tournament, that probably springboarded it into the LA Olympics, and then cricket in Brisbane 32. It's going to be fine here in Australia, isn't it, at the Olympics? So I think it's awesome. It's going to be interesting to see how the qualifying works. I think with that, but yeah, having it in the Olympics, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think the early rumors are that if you could have USA qualify direct, and then the top 5 teams from the T20 rankings go through. So, Australia, you want to make sure you're in that top 5. But I guess it is good for the growth of the game because T20 cricket is very accessible. That you even see in the T20 World Cup that the gaps between the best and the worst teams is a bit closer than the other formats. So I think T20 cricket would be a great way of getting other countries to really invest in cricket.
Yeah. Do you think 6 teams is enough, though? Like, that's actually not very many teams, is it?
No, I think it's a start. I'd hope that when Australia hosted the Olympics in 2032 in Brisbane, your neck of the woods, with more facilities, we could increase that. But for them, I know one of the things with the Olympics is team sports is such a huge drain on resources. So, when you think about those 6 teams,
all the training facilities and
and you got 15 player squads, probably they'll have a couple of coaches, where if you bring in, I know some of these other sports, the more individual sports, then you don't have that huge influx of new bodies for them to house in LA. Anyway, I want to get over there. I mean, there's a lot of cricket going to the USA. Next year, the T20 World Cup will be there. They've got their Major League Cricket. There's actually a bit going on in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually a couple of tournaments called minor league, which are kind of semi-professional, that some pros are going to as well. So there's heaps to get into over there. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm keen to get over there and play at some point if that happens.
Yeah, I'll come and watch. I certainly won't be playing. All right, that's it. If they'll have me. Now let's get into the Cricket World Cup. So we're recording this on Monday afternoon, Sydney time. So obviously matches every day. When you're listening to this, things might have changed. But the key thing is India in our five wins from 5 games, beating New Zealand overnight. New Zealand were all out for 273. Shami took 5 for 54, and then Kohli played beautifully, hit 95 in the chase, and India did it pretty easily in the end. So I don't think any surprises there, but a good win for India. But it was the game on Saturday night that really excited me, with England getting absolutely smashed. I mean, I thought we were bad against South Africa. Well, I feel a lot better about us now. South Africa 7 for 399, England all out 170. 399 is the highest ever score England have conceded, and the 229 run margin of defeat was their worst ever in terms of runs. I mean, how good, James, to see our old mates across the pond getting smashed.
Oh, absolutely pogoed, weren't they? And they're actually not playing their best, are they? They're defending World Cup champions. And I thought it was funny that a couple of times they've won the toss and bowled and haven't been successful. And I was surprised they bowled again against South Africa. South Africa have struggled to chase the last couple of games. And so it was a funny toss, and then it just kind of went pear-shaped from then. And then, I mean, you need a lot of things to go right to chase that score down. So, yeah, it feels good to have the Palms struggling.
Exactly. And it's a bit like the Australian team, I think, that they haven't played a lot of their best team in one-day cricket leading into this tournament. So I don't think they've come into it with, a lot of form. And as you say, the decision at the toss, I think the coach said after the game that they obviously got the toss wrong, but, their bowling's been awful, their batting's yet to fire. And, they might start pointing the finger at Aussie coach Matthew Mott.
That's it. Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say. As you said just then, Australia's preparation was kind of similar with mixing and matching of makeups and balances. And I suppose there's an element of trying to keep guys fresh there as well. So you'll never know. They got a good squad, but
struggle now.
They're struggling now, and potentially even just their seamers aren't as well suited to that Indian conditions.
And they've lost their big one. Reece Topley's out for the rest of the tournament. He's broken his finger, so broken a thumb. So, it could be an historically bad defence by England, which would be great because they can't shut up recently since the Ashes.
Exactly.
So I was pretty pessimistic about Australia's chances, especially after the South Africa game. But I'm starting to feel a bit better, James. Now, I'll run you through why. Because at the moment, you've got a top four of India, New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia. And I think India, New Zealand, South Africa, they should get through. South Africa could stumble. But then I look at the matchups, and I think if Australia plays South Africa in the semi-final or the final, South Africa will choke. They'll choke at some stage. So, they're going to, they mess up the run rate, or it'll rain and they'll get screwed over. So you can just rule them out of winning. New Zealand, if they come against us, they always play their worst cricket. So they can be flying and they'll come against Australia and they'll just bottle it. So I'm thinking, okay, we've got two covered. And India, I mean, they've got like 7 billion people, putting pressure on them to win, which I think will only get more pronounced as you get to the knockout stage. Like, I think, you've got a bit of a margin for error at this stage. So I think Australia's chances are rapidly improving.
Yeah, they are. And they obviously won the last two games, which is the most important thing. We've actually got some points on the board now. We have some, I think it's probably fair to say we have some easier games coming up, perhaps. Some
That's
games
true.
where we're definitely expected to win, because we already dished out with India and South Africa, kind of straight out of the gates, which hurt us. We beat Pakistan, which is a good win, and now we're going to have a couple of maybe easier matchups, which could just keep us going on a roll, which would be nice. We have to play New Zealand at some point, but as you said, I'm liking our chances now as well. It's still a long way to go. India and New Zealand look super strong, and South Africa look like a bit of a dark horse, and almost like a high possibility to make that top four as well.
Oh, definitely. And I think Australia have the Dutch, then Kiwis, then England, then you've got Afghanistan and Bangladesh, I'm not sure if it's in that order to finish. So they do have a easier run home. But you speak about South Africa, that Heinrich Klaassen is just awesome.
How good is he?
He's been smoking at this World Cup, and he's the sort of player that, if he keeps going like this, he could, put a stamp on this tournament and take South Africa a long way, because he just, he looks in control of his game as well. Like, it's not just blind slogging. Like, he knows what he's doing.
No, it's just clean striking, isn't it? And he's just in a real purple patch. He's got to be one of the best ball strikers in the world at the minute. Like, off the back of his success in England and the 100 and IPL and stuff like that, he's probably one of the most wanted men at the moment in terms of his ball striking ability around the world for T20 franchise cricket clubs. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of AB, doesn't it? That guy who just almost has a bit between his teeth this World Cup and can just do it off his own bat at times and just put teams to the sword. So I'm really enjoying watching him bat. Actually, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I found it hard to decide who to go for when England plays South Africa, but I'll go for South Africa at the moment. So here's some stuff out of the Australian camp. Travis Head spoke to the media. He had a good hit yesterday. He's getting better all the time. He hasn't done much fielding yet, just a little bit of catching. But James, I've got bad news. I feel like Marnus is going to have to make way for Travis pretty soon.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, isn't it? But he's also the guy who's kind of scored our only kind of runs recently, has he? So, do they talk about Steve Smith, who's a little bit out of touch? Do they go him instead of Marnus? Do they go one of the guys in the middle they're struggling? But I don't think, they're going to get rid of a Maxwell or a Stoinis. The guys in there obviously can. Maxwell's almost in there for his bowling at the minute, isn't he? He's bowling beautifully. So he'll come good with a bat as well. So I think you're probably right. It's going to have to be a Man or a Smith at 3 or 4 to then push Marsh down to 3 and head back to the top.
It looks pretty good when you add Travis back into the top order because, having Mitch Marsh comes in at 3. If we lose an early wicket, we've still got somebody who can take on the new ball. So I think that's shaping up pretty well. The middle order will need to fire, though, for Australia to go all the way. Like, that's one thing. Even in that match against Pakistan, the top order did so well, but really started to fall away. Like, we haven't quite got the finishes yet going. Like, Maxi and Stoinis have been iffy. I mean, Maxi played a terrible shot against Pakistan. Yeah, I think that's one area that 6 and 7 needs to start firing.
Yeah, definitely. And what did you think about the Inglis in for Kerry decision?
I don't mind it. I really rate Josh Inglis as a player. I think he's got a huge upside. He's been so dominant in T20 competitions all around the world. So on an island, I don't mind that decision, but I thought it was very curious to start with Kerry and then one game in, just pull the trigger on him.
Quite quick, wasn't it? Yeah, me too. I was surprised by that a little bit.
What do you think of Inglis?
No, yeah, great player. I think they're both amazing players, but I think Kerry, it wasn't long ago he scored kind of 99 for us in South Africa. So it was the one game that surprised me, like it did for you as well. But yeah, Inglis is pretty special. So hopefully he can catch him and score some runs.
Yeah, and I guess if you're looking at the structure right now without Head, having Smith, Marnus, and Carey at 3, 4, 5, you've got 3 similar type players in the way they approach 50 over cricket. So they probably felt they had to put in Inglis, who's a bit more dynamic.
Yeah, sure.
And so, I'm starting to feel more confident now that Australia can win it. I still have concerns about captaincy in tight games. Like, I think Cummins is going to be under a lot of pressure if games get really tight. But so far, we haven't seen many tight games. But yeah, I just think we're seeing, that a lot of pressure on Cummins already in this tournament because, I mean, he really pulled it back in the Sri Lanka game. I mean, he bowled a great spell there.
Yeah, great spell, yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's going to be hard on him the longer this tournament goes. Hot conditions, not a lot of experience in 50 over cricket. Hopefully, the other boys can help him out.
Yeah, there definitely will be enough help there for him.
So things are turning around for Australia. I'm pretty happy. As it stands, India on top of the table, then New Zealand, South Africa 3rd, Australia 4, Pakistan just outside the 5. I still wouldn't write off a bit of a twist in the tail here that one of the teams gets stuck, and then maybe Pakistan can put a bit of pressure on them. But,
yeah, definitely.
They were, they had 2 shockers against India and Australia, so they'll need to really get back together. So that's the World Cup. Let's get to the domestic news, James. I know you've been ensconced in a lot of domestic action over the last couple of weeks. Before we get into that, do you watch? Have you been watching a lot of the World Cup?
Yeah, I've been watching a fair bit of it, especially the Aussie games, or if there's a big matchup. I've been watching kind of the first half, first 25, 30 overs, maybe a bit more if I'm not doing much the next day, but I'm trying to follow it and watch it. Yeah, it's been good. There's been some disappointing crowds at times to some of the games, but otherwise it looks like it's been, a bit of a party atmosphere, and the Indian fans are loving it.
Yeah, I've been watching it, and like you, I sort of watch maybe the first innings and go to bed after that. But I have found that it hasn't quite grabbed me yet. Like, we haven't had many really thrilling games yet, like close finishes. I also feel that I loved the T20 World Cup last year because I liked the pace of that tournament. Like, I feel like already now, it's not like we're waiting for the semi-finals, but, it's a long round robin phase. So long. I feel that I think the plan is in the next 50 over World Cup to play a different format where smaller pools and sort of get to sort of a second round or knockout cricket quicker. And I think that would be better, because if I'm just mildly enthused by it, then I can imagine a casual fan will be struggling to get into it.
Yeah, very fair. Yeah, that's fair.
All right, let's turn our attention to the local action. Well, we'll start with the WBBL, and that is underway. So we're recording this Monday afternoon, and they've played 6 matches already, and so far there's been some records smashed. So firstly, and I love making fun of the Melbourne Stars, they were bowled out for 29 by the defending champions, the Adelaide Strikers. That was just incredible result. One stage they were like 8 for 15. They were lucky to get to 29. And the Adelaide Strikers, they did it in the men's BBL to the Thunder last year, bowling them out for 15. They bowled out the WBBL Stars team for 29. So as you can imagine, that was the lowest ever score in the WBBL, and ended up being the highest ever defeat by runs in the WBBL. 29, James. What do you reckon they're talking about in the dressing rooms after that?
They're not talking about much. You're just thinking, far out. How did I not get a couple more nicks through the slips or just something? But I mean, we saw it last year with 15, the Sydney Thunder, wasn't it? 15?
Yeah, it was.
That's harder to do. That's so hard to do, really, isn't it? When you think about it, like
yes.
You're just thinking, I'm going to get a leg by here or there. I'm going to get one out the middle, but it's one of those ones with T20. Like, I don't know. You're better off just kind of. You've got to try and win or lose. There's no point There's no point just kind of. There's no consolidating periods, Menace, is there? There's no red ball. There's no red ball cricket. Here we go, dig us out. Hour and a half before tea kind of thing. It's like, all right, well, this is the score. We need to get it, and if we're struggling, and we're going to keep trying to get the score. So that's why these low scores pop up here and there, because essentially batters are just going out there and they're thinking they can chase the run rate, and it just doesn't work out. But it's always worth a giggle, isn't it? Seeing these low scores.
I love seeing the Melbourne Stars stuff it up. Historically bad in both competitions. But you're right that once you've got to keep playing your shots to go for the win. And then, at some point you look up and you're 6 for 12 and you're going, okay, this is not going to happen. And then it's sort of too late.
Exactly.
So we saw so that was on Saturday. We saw the historically bad performance. Then on Sunday in North Sydney Oval in Sydney, there was a double header, and I got to go to both of those games. So we had the Brisbane Heat, your old team, playing the Perth Scorchers, and Grace Harris smashed the highest ever score in the WBBL. She is a character. She hit 136 not out of 59 balls with 11 sixes. Highest score, most number of sixes. A couple of things to jump out of it. One, she had a dodgy bat handle, and she said on commentary, my handle's about to go, but I'm not going to swap it yet. And next ball, she went to hit a 6. Hit it for 6, but as she was hitting it, the bat handle just snapped and went halfway down the pitch, and the ball went sailing over the fig tree at North Sydney Oval. And
that's pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yes, and crazy. But as you know, the bats just before they go, they have that little bit of whip in them. Like,
Yeah, definitely. It was that clip that came out was funny, wasn't it? Because she was kind of saying, no, like I'll still hit this one, I'll be right. Because I think one of the Scorchers girls asked her, like, you want to change it now? Because whenever you've broken a bat, or what I know from my experience is like usually just change it when it's broken. You're not just backing yourself to hit the next one for 6, but Gracie just went smack and came out the screws, broke the bat in half, and sailed over the fig tree. So
yeah. I also found out she names her bats after burgers, and I think you'll get who her favorite burger shop is, because I think one was called the McCrispy and one was called the McSpicy. And she explained she called one the McCrispy because she likes to hit the ball nice and crisp.
She must love Hungry Jackson, eh?
I think so. I think that's it. You're spot on. So that was a big win for the Brisbane Heat. The Scorchers didn't chase that down. And then under lights, the Sixers and the Thunder played their derby, and it was a huge win for the Sydney Thunder. Phoebe Litchfield and Chamari Adipatu played excellently for the Thunder. And they really smashed the Sixers. But the big news was Elisa Healy, the Australian captain at the moment, was bitten by her own dog on Saturday and had to undergo surgery, and it looks like she will be out for most of the WBBL, maybe not all of it. So she held a press conference today, and she looked really flat. She looked really down. All the drugs had worn off. Like, you probably saw her posting a smiling photo on Sunday online. All the painkillers wore off, and she looked very disappointed today. And the way I understand it is her 2 puppies were fighting, and she somehow got a hand in there, and one of them just took a big snap at her hand and hit an artery. So apparently it looked like it looked like a gory scene. Like, she didn't even want to really go into the details because I think it was probably a bit traumatic for her. So blood everywhere, so no tendon damage, no bone damage or anything. It's just a lot of stitches, I imagine. But that's stunning. And you think about all the cricket injuries lately. Well, what do we have? We had Maxi riding a mate at a party. Well, that's the story I've heard anyway. We had Johnny Bairstow stepping in a hole on a golf course. We had Adam Zampa running into the pool with his eyes closed recently. But how that will be devastating for the Sixers, James. Just as their tournament's getting underway, they've lost both opening games, and Elisa Healy will at least be out for most of the tournament.
I mean, she's probably the best player in the tournament, isn't she? Like, she's probably
such a huge draw card.
Yeah, she's your number 1 draft pick, isn't she? Proven player, consistent. Did she captain the Sixers as well the last couple of years, potentially? Like, she's obviously a leader as well, or even if
she has done, definitely.
So
when Perry's not doing it.
Yeah, when you lose someone like that, it does hurt your team a lot, because when she's around your team, those girls are walking 2 inches taller, so they would be flat, and she would be flat too. It's not an injury you expect, is it? The old bitten hand by your own pet. So I might not be any more wrestling with the dogs, I don't think, for Alyssa. Just take them for a walk,
please.
I think.
Heading into the Strikers season, you better be careful.
That's right.
So Elisa's seeing a specialist at the end of the week, and then he'll assess when she can return to play. But it was, you could tell it just absolutely devastated the Sixers, and they actually lost a couple of other players to injury. So they didn't even have a full squad. They had to draft in a WNCL player to field. Sure. So that's WBBL. I love that competition. It's so fun. You must be in on the Strikers now that you've signed with them.
Following the Strikers, and they're defending champions, so hopefully you can go back to back, the girls there. Looks good so far.
Excellent. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with all the Sheffield Shield and Marsh One Day Cup action. You're listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I'm Manners. I'm with James Bazley. We've smashed through the World Cup and the WBBL. So 2 very exciting tournaments, but the hits keep coming, because it's now down to the Marsh Sheffield Shield. And this is where James has been in and around that Queensland squad. how's the season started for the Queensland team? I mean, I can see here you great victory in the, well, you've two good games. You scraped the draw against New South Wales and then big win against the Vics. But how's the mood? Is everyone excited? Back playing red ball cricket, fielding for 2 days, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly right. In the dirt for 2 days. No, the mood's good amongst the Bulls boys. We got away with one in Sydney, definitely. New South Wales played well, and we scraped through for a draw there off the back of some amazing batting performance by a couple of our boys, and then had a really good win up in Mackay against the Vics. Dominated that game, it's fair to say. And then off to Tasmania tomorrow to start the next Shield round on Thursday down in Tassie, which has actually presented conditions in the past that have been quite favourable for fast bowling. So we've had some success down there, and so the boys, the mood's good. They're expectant to play well again this week, and hopefully we can go for another win there, and then that's a really special start to the year, really. I think so. Everything's good.
How far away do you think you are from playing?
You sometimes you feel really far away, and then it just happens really quick, and other times you feel close. For me, it's like I'm not too far away. I don't think you ever are as far away as you probably think. It's just about playing well for the Redlands, playing some second 11 games when I can, and just trying to be ready for when the opportunity comes, because it's a long season and we're only just started. So, the opportunities do come.
Absolutely. How have you been going for Redlands and the second 11?
Yeah, I've been playing well for Redlands. I've got some runs, and I finally had like a nice good bowl on Saturday. Bowled 24 overs, took 2 wickets. I just hadn't been bowling much previously because of travel and being away and stuff like that. So it's nice to go and bowl 24 overs on Saturday, get 2 wickets. We couldn't get the win though. The Gold Coast played out for the draw, which hurt. So we had them 9 down for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and they played it out. But I'm playing good cricket. My game's in a good place, Menace, so I'll be ready for when the opportunity comes.
Excellent. Well, it's going to come around quick. Before you know it, you'll be in Adelaide getting ready for the big bash, and
that's true as well,
hitting catches to you. So with the Sheffield Shield ladder, Tasmania are on top. So they've had a win and a draw. South Australia in second spot with a win and a loss. Then WA third, Queensland fourth, New South Wales and Victoria down the bottom. But it's all pretty tight at the moment. So very early days, just 2 rounds played. In that match, some interesting scores actually. So in the match, Queensland versus Victoria at Mackay, Matt Short made a wonderful 100, and his week got better. And then Matt Renshaw also made 135 of 262. And quietly, James, Matty Renshaw is putting together a pretty good start to the season. And with David Warner set to vacate the top of the order, I think he's making a very strong case to maybe leapfrog one Marcus Harris.
Yeah. He's making a very strong case. He's doing all that he can do, and that's score runs and score hundreds for sure. And it's been across both formats last week too. So doing absolutely all he can. Marcus Harris has done that for a few years too, to be fair. But Renners is hopefully knocking the door down, and I'd love to see him, jump back in that test team. He has scored 180 for Australia at test cricket level. Let's not forget that. So he's been there before.
I saw it.
So let's get him back in there and keep him in there for a while, and hopefully, he can have a long test career there. But he's really working for it. That's for sure.
The big thing that used to come out about Renshaw was he was very annoying within the team environment when he was a youngster, when he first started playing for Australia. So we're talking 2016, 2017. Is he still as annoying, or is he just calmed down a bit now?
No, I definitely think he's calmed down a little bit. I mean, I went away with Matthew under 12s schoolboys tour, so we go back quite a way, and we've played some junior cricket together. But Matt's in a really good place off the field. He's got a young daughter to look after, and he loves his housework and his chores with his lawn and his gardens and everything. So Matt's in a good place off the field, which for him is important, and that always transfers to his cricket success, because he is bubbly. He can be annoying because he's loud, and he's he's in your face at times, but that's actually the way we want Matt to be, because that's when Matt's enjoying his cricket the most and actually just having a lot of fun and enjoying his batting and scoring hundreds.
Yeah, good stuff. Friend of the show, been on a few times, so always good to see him doing well. So then on the other round, South Australia played New South Wales, and it was an absolute hammering. And these are the stories I love. So Nathan McAndrew, seen as not good enough to play for New South Wales. When he was in New South Wales, he played 2 games for New South Wales in list A cricket. So, he has to move across to South Australia to get a game. And he takes 5 for 42 in the first innings, 5 for 19 in the second innings, and completely demolishes New South Wales. South Australia won by 186 runs. It was the lowest completed total for New South Wales against South Australia in 130 years of Shield history. It's only the 3rd time in Shield history for New South Wales that no player has reached 60 in either innings, and it was their 2nd biggest defeat. And it was their biggest defeat since a 257-run hammering in 1994-95. That produced a lot of consternation in New South Wales. James, very passionate about our team here, and they've had a painful couple of years. And that loss seemed to, everyone came out, started to throw barbs at the New South Wales team, but they just can't seem to put together consistent batting. It's been a problem for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of all those kind of records, man. That's full on, isn't it? I don't know the answers. They're good players, aren't they, the Blues? I guess they're in a bit of a transformation as such with the new coach on board this year. Moses has got the captaincy again. There are a little bit of a different makeup in the team. But yeah, you're right. The batting's probably let them down a little bit.
Look at someone like Curtis Patterson. He was in the Australian side a few years ago, but he's really struggling. Anyway, so that's the New South Wales side. They yet to get a win in the Shield. And then in the other game, Tasmania played WA at the Wacker, and it was a run fest. Tasmania 439. Jordan Silk, another player from New South Wales, 181. And then Sam Whiteman for WA made 188. And also, we speak about openers pushing for spots. Cameron Bancroft made 91. He's also made a few scores this summer. And the reason actually Marcus Harris didn't play much, I think he had a child during the first round of the Shield. So he missed the first round because I think he had maybe a son. So I think he'll be back in playing. So Harris will want to get out there and just put some scores on the board so the selectors don't forget about him. But that was a draw at the Wacker. Player of the match, Sam Whiteman. And as I said, leaves Tasmania at the top of the Shield table with a long way to go. They're playing 6 rounds of Shield cricket before the Big Bash. That is pretty big workload.
Yeah, because we're also playing 5 one-days as well. So it's quite a big workload. Yeah, it was similar to what we did last year. And then after the Big Bash, there's only 2 one-days and a final, obviously, and 4 Shield games. So it kind of tapers off a bit after the Big Bash. So I don't mind it. I think you get into the Big Bash, and then the Big Bash is shortened this year, which was probably a good thing. But yeah, the last few years, you get back end of Big Bash, and then you are quite fatigued kind of start of coming back into that first Shield game after, because Big Bash is a lot of travel. It's a lot of games. So if we were to have, 5 or 6 Shield games after the Big Bash and another 4 Marsh Cups, I don't think that would be that helpful either. So I think this is the right way to do it, to front end it a bit more. But yeah, it means for heavy workload up front.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of the Marsh Cup, well, let's get into that. The Marsh Cup is, some teams have played 4 games, some teams 3 games. Western Australia, the defending champs, are on top with 3 wins from 3 games. Victoria in second spot with 3 wins and 1 loss. And then New South Wales, third spot, 2 wins, 2 losses. Queensland a win and 2 losses. And Tasmania the same, a win and 2 losses. And South Australia, who made the final last year, 4 games, 0 wins. So probably struggling to make the final. So the Vicks played Queensland and Mackay. Victoria made 6 for 349. Matty Short, 134 off 100. He's really starting to come into his own now as a player that we'll probably see a lot at international level.
Yeah, he looked like he was batting on a different wicket up there, to be honest. He's hitting them clean manners. It was clean striking of the ball, and he's done that for a year or two now, hasn't he? He's been rewarded with some Australian games as well. So that gives him the confidence that when he comes back to the Marsh Cup, that he can, this is mine to dominate, and I'm going to keep putting runs on the board to get back in the Aussie team. So it's nice to have a player like him waiting in the wings a little bit and scoring hundreds for Victoria for when he plays for Australia. He'll be flying. So he's nice to have him on my Strikers team as well, I reckon.
No, yeah, that's true. He'll be your teammate soon. So he made 100 in the Shield, 100 in the Marsh Cup. Great week for him. He'll love going up to Mackay. And you make a good point that, David Warner's not going to be around forever either. Matt Short and Travis Head is a pretty good-looking opening pair with a left and right-handed combination for. Well, that could definitely be the Strikers. Could be the Strikers opening pair if you get to see Travis throughout the summer. Queensland were looking good, 2 for 200, but then bit of a collapse. But Matt Renshaw smashed 102 off just 68 deliveries. So following on from his Shield ton, as we said, good week for him. Todd Murphy, 3 for 45. Jeez. So we do have spinners that can play 50 over cricket.
Yeah, I think we have a few. Kuhneman's bowling beautifully as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Left arm finger spins is such a good asset. But yeah, Queensland were in a great position that game. We definitely got ourselves ahead of the run rate quite well off the back of McDermott and Renshaw partnership, and then just a couple of wickets in the middle squeezed us. The run rate kind of went from 6 to slowly up to 7.5, 8 with some wickets there. So that's always a position that you're under pressure when you're chasing a little bit. So, but all in all, a good game of cricket, great facility, great white ball wicket, high scoring game.
How's Ben McDermott fitting into the squad after returning from Tasmania?
Yeah, fitting in absolutely fine. We've played a lot of cricket with Ben through junior level, in 17s, 19s, 15s even. So yeah, Ben knew a lot of the guys actually quite well. So he's been absolutely fine. He comes straight back in and is a wonderful asset to have. He's scoring runs in white ball cricket and back in the Shield team too. And hopefully we can see some runs there as well from him.
Yeah, had a good chat with him on the podcast during COVID and ended up just reminiscing about his dad's career. Then in the last Marsh Cup game of this round, New South Wales played South Australia at the Adelaide Oval. New South Wales batted first, made 291 runs. Moses Enriquez hit the quickest ever ton by a New South Wales player in the Marsh Cup. That came off just 71 balls. He was only 42 balls behind the Jake Fraser-McGurk all-time record. So get a move on, Moses. But a great captain's knock from him because they were also labouring a bit. And then Liam Hatcher for New South Wales took a hat trick to help dismiss South Australia for 258. New South Wales won by 33 runs. But the big news was the GOAT returned. Nathan Lyon, none for 51 off 9 overs. He looked good. He got a bit of a finger knock trying to take a catch, so he went off for a little while. But yeah, he looked to be fine, ready to go.
That's great news, isn't it? Great news for the Test summer. Do you think it's a little bit of like a, hey, if you need me in the World Cup, I'm here? Do you reckon there's a little bit of that?
Well, so I've actually been, Nathan Lyon's just started a podcast called The Goat Cast, and I'm actually been producing it for him. So he's been in the studio recently. And when I floated the possibility of him going over to the World Cup, he seemed to indicate that the selectors have never given even the whiff of a possibility of him going over. So I don't think for some reason he's in their plans. I think if they would take a finger spinner, like Matt Kuhneman as your teammate, he played limited overs cricket for Australia last year in Sri Lanka, I think it was. So he'd be someone you could take over. I think Lyon would do a great job over there. But yeah, he was in the studio. So, he brought in a calf specialist. I don't know if you've ever done your calf, James, but
no, I haven't. No.
He brought in like this calf specialist and went through sort of how intense the injury was. And you should go and listen to it. Listeners, it's called The Goat Cast. It's on all
what a name.
Apps. Yeah. They came up with it. I was just just pushing the buttons. But he talked about how debilitating the injury was, how he came back mentally shattered, having played 100 tests in a row, then to have to just leave while the series was still going. And he said it was mentally very, very taxing. But then he also found it sort of challenging to really sort of work out what was the best recovery. He really had to sort of really had to dive in and get the right people to advise him to make sure, the best recovery plan possible, because he wanted to like rehab that calf. Like a calf had never been rehabbed. So he's got a great work ethic, but mentally you could tell it really knocked him around just having to sit there and watch the Ashes.
Yeah, that would make sense too, isn't it? And we missed him in the Ashes too, didn't we?
Big time.
Yeah.
So anyway, check out the Goat Cast if you want to hear about calves and the goat's journey back to the top. But he says that when he turned it around was when he had a definitive plan, like how to get back playing. He started to feel better. So I think it just shows, he's so diligent and such a hard worker that, he wanted to tick every box, and you don't take almost 500 wickets by accident. He's exactly an absolute freak.
He's so absolute freak. Yeah. All
right. Well, that's it for all the domestic news. Now I'm going to wrap this up with Can't Let It Go. Now I've got 2 Can't Let It Goes in case you don't have one, James. So I'm going to start. I'll start with the first one. David Warner suggested the umpire's scores should be put up on the scoreboard after he received what he thought was a howler against, was it South Africa? Or Sri Lanka.
The umpire's scores.
So, you obviously have a strike rate, and umpires would be, you could grade them on sort of what's overturned, what's umpire's call,
I love it. That's rare, but I love that. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think it's bad. Someone made a point, if you're going to do that, you have to start paying the umpires more because of the ridicule they might receive.
That's pretty funny, that.
But one thing that is interesting is that I know they have those stats. Like they are looking at those on every game. The match referee and the umpires panel, they will be looking at every game, and so they'll have those figures. Oh, that was overturned. So it's not like the figures aren't there. It would be funny. I think that was a shot, though, mate. I don't know. I think he had a shot at Joel Wilson, the umpire. I think he's probably had a few stinkers off him. And I guess sometimes you do feel like if an umpire gives you a few bad ones in a row, like they're out to get you, even though they're probably not.
Yeah. I don't think they are, but you do feel like that way. That's for sure.
Anything that jump out at you from the weeks of cricket news you want to raise, James?
No, not really. There's been some interesting kind of topics there with Lisa Healy's injury, and
I've got one for you.
What else you got? Come on.
And I don't want to get you in trouble here, so I'm just going. You just say what you want. But I was shocked when I read that Usman Khawaja rested from the last Shield round. Like, I know you're captain, so just let this one go through to the keeper. But I think we're in an interesting place in cricket where you've got a top order batter who doesn't play all the formats. He's just a red ball specialist. You've got a new ground at Mackay. They get this fixture, and one of the stars of Queensland side, probably the biggest star really, decides not to play there. Like I did hear from someone at Mackay who was disappointed about that. So I thought that was a curious decision. Maybe, I don't know, do you have any insights into why those decisions are made? Just generally, you don't have to speak about his one.
Yeah, sure. I think it was a Cricket Australia kind of agreement as well with I don't know what was Scotty Boland was doing in that Shield game, but I think he might have been. I know he played the one day, but was he rested as well from Cricket Australia?
Was, yeah.
Yeah, with the workload coming up. There you go. So
he's a fast bowler.
Not sure. Yeah, I guess so. But I guess.
But do you see? I guess so. You've got the professional cricketer's view, like the travel, the time away from home. But can you see why fans might go, "This is strange that a batter who's not injured, who's the captain of the state, is just going, nah, I'm not going to play." Like Queensland got the win, so it all worked out fine. But maybe Queensland loses by 40 runs. You think, geez, would have been nice to have Uzi there. I don't know. I just found it weird.
Yeah, no, definitely from a fan's point of view. Yeah, you finally get a game where you can see one of the best batters in Australia come and you don't come from a fan, you're disappointed because of how much you want to see that player. But yeah, I guess he's just doing what he's told in a way, isn't he?
Indeed. But mate, back in the old days, Alan Border and all those blokes would have been. Do you see a lot of the old Bulls like hanging around because they've got the Bulls Masters? Like Queensland cricket is actually one of those organisations that does seem to value their past players. Like,
they definitely do.
The others, but I know Queensland does that really well. Like, do you have much to do with them? Just like they pop their heads in?
They do pop their heads in. We've done this thing for a while in training, mainly in pre-season, where one player would has to invite an old player in and actually to introduce them and ask them a few questions kind of before we start training. So that's been done the last couple of years, which have brought back some really good players. But yeah, the Bulls Masters is great for that, and they definitely come and hang out a bit and watch a bit of cricket around AB and the Gabba. So that's always good.
Any in particular you get a buzz out of running into or chat to?
Well, we've obviously got Chuck Seckham, Andy Bickle, and Martin Love as our coaching staff in a way. So there's a lot of Darren Lehman, who was a red back, but I get a lot of laughs out of Andy Bickle, and he's a great coach as well. So he just has stories, Menners, for days. I don't know if he makes them up, probably doesn't, but he keeps coming with new stories every time. So he's one of the greatest. The great coaches and the great men, Andy Bickle. So he's probably my favourite.
Oh, excellent. He's terrific. I'm sure he brings up that 2003 World Cup game against England all the time.
All the time.
I went to a test at the Gabba a long time ago, and Bickle was the 12th man. And the Queensland crowd, like every time he ran a drink on, Bickle, like cheering like he'd scored 100. They were just loving Andy. And he was a servant, part of that most successful era of the Queensland Bulls. All right, James. Well, that's it for Cricket Unfiltered this week. Thanks for coming back. We'll catch up again in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. That was great to discuss all things cricket again.
Indeed. So listeners, make sure you rate and review the show on Apple or Spotify. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Oz Cricket Pod. That's AUS Cricket Pod. I'm on Twitter at @Menners. Cricket Unfiltered is on TikTok, so just put in Cricket Unfiltered. If you want to become a patron of the show, head to patreon.com. Also follow our YouTube page. We'll be doing some live broadcasts around the business end of the World Cup. And I'd love to hear your cricket takes. So in the episode notes, I've got all the email address. So send in your hot takes. If there's something I said that you disagree with, feel free to ping me a message. And also all the interviews are on the feed from Menners Masterclass. Some great cricketers on there if you want some long form interviews. James, where can the listeners connect with you on social media?
It'll just be Instagram, I guess. I'm not a real big Twitter user. So Instagram, I get on there and use that a little bit. So that'd be the best shout, I think, Menners. And
what's your handle?
Just James Bazley, I believe. James_Bazley. Yeah.
There you go.
It won't be hard to find, I don't reckon. It's
no worries.
Along those lines, yeah.
Well, listeners, thanks for joining us. I'll be back with Gav, I think, after the Australia v Netherlands game. I used to live in Amsterdam, James, so I love it when Australia comes up against the Dutch. Yep. Yeah. Lived there when I was 24. So as you can imagine, was a fun time.
Had a good time. Yeah. Had a good time. I was about to say that, yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks.